Hi everybody. I wanted to do a bit of an update on the tarot card deck making project that I'm involved in. So in a previous video I talked about the tarot card deck that I wanted that doesn't exist, which is the one described in the fiction book Johnathan, Strange and Mr. Norrell. And so I've started making, or started with the groundwork for making the deck. So the description of the deck in the book, first of all, starts to describe how this character Childemas came across the deck of cards. And he says they're copies of a set which belonged to a sailor he met in Whitby, and the sailor had bought them in Genoa in Italy with the intention of using them, but he couldn't understand them, so he tried to sell them to the character Childemas. But Childemas couldn't, he was poor at the time and he couldn't pay the price for the cards. So they struck a bargain, and Childemas would tell him the fortune. Sorry, that's my dogs. So Childemas would tell him his fortune. In return, the sailor would lend him the cards long enough to make copies of the cards, but his ship set sail before Childemas was able to complete the drawings. So this is sort of the description. He says half of the cards are done from memory. And then Childemas had also been too poor to afford paper at the time, and the cards were drawn on the backs of, it says, the backs of alehouse bills, laundry lists, letters, old accounts and playbills. So what I did first was I went online and found those kinds of documents from around the year 1800, because the discussion in the book took place in 1808, so it must have been a few years prior to that. So I got images of things like bills, letters, playbills. I tried to find laundry lists. I found one. So these are bills and so on from Britain around that time, around 1800, the year 1800. And then what I did was I reversed the image, because this is then supposed to be the back of the piece of paper. So the obviously the writing would be reversed. And then the plan is now for me to draw the cards onto the backs of these various types of paper. And then after that, after he'd drawn the images on the backs of the paper, later on he was able to then paste them onto cards. So I'll do that afterwards as well. But then the idea is to, so I've cut them into smaller card size. These are a little bit smaller than a typical Marseille, but I mean, I figure I can enlarge that at printing, or there'll also be a border, because Childemas in the book would have pasted these then onto card, and I could also wrap the edges. So yeah, that's where I've got to, and what I'm going to do is try and draw the Fool onto one of these with fountain pen ink. So I'll speed this up again a little bit, the video for you, but I'm going to give that a go and just see what the design looks like. The plan is to then colour them by hand afterwards, but I could obviously get them printed out a few times at a local printer, and then I could colour them by hand afterwards. So yeah, and I'll have to decide what kind of cardstock to print them onto. But in terms of the design, I'm basing the design of the Marseille Tarot on the Nicholas Conver, which I know was around at that time. And it originated in Marseille, so it would have been called the Cards of Marseille, which is how Childemas refers to them. So I've got some images up on my computer screen above here showing the Cards of Marseille, and I'm going to try and draw the Fool. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so I think it's not too bad. I quite like it actually. So there is my first go. Obviously I can have another go at it, but I think I quite like that. I've added a tree because that is in the description in the book. And I think maybe I need to add a few lines there as well. And then I also made the cat or wild animal more dog-like because that is also in the book, and the author of the book also describes that the fool has ribbons on his knees, so I've added ribbons. So yeah, most of this is copied from the Cards of Marseille, and then a little bit is added from the description in the book. And yeah, I think I'm quite happy with it. I could give it another go. But anyway, that's quite fun. And now this obviously can be pasted onto a piece of card, and then from there I can scan and reprint it, or obviously I'll have an original deck as well. But then I could also do hand colouring after scanning, I think would be the right way to do it. So yeah, quite happy, and I'll let you know how things progress. Hi again, yeah, just to add, I've done a second one, the Magician, which has come out okay. There's a little blob of ink down there, I don't know if you can see that. I actually need to get some blotting paper, I think. Yeah, I've done a lot of line work before, but I haven't done fountain pen work before, so it's a little tricky. I've kind of messed up his hand a bit, and also the second E in Bateleur has gone a bit smudged, but I figure if this was Childermas drawing on the back of alehouse bills in a pub with a sailor, he'd probably have messed up some of the finer details as well. It doesn't say how good an artist he is. But yeah, again, I mean, I could try and correct them. Perhaps that second E would be worth correcting. But I'm also thinking I'll put the numbers on the frame when I paste these onto card. Although Childermas would have included the numbers in the cards as well. But anyway, I think it's quite an interesting project. Obviously 78 cards is going to take me quite a while. And the other thing it says is that he did some of them from memory, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to handle that. I'm going to assume that he would have done the minors from memory rather than the majors, and he'd probably also have copied the courts, and then he would have done the minors from memory, because he'd have wanted to capture the detail from the I'm putting my mind into the mind of a fictional character here, but anyway, I think that might be the way to go, is to try and draw the majors and the courts from the cards, and then one or two of the minors directly, and then to imagine how much detail somebody would have been able to recall from memory of the minor arcana. Oh yeah, and just one more thing. Obviously, I know that there you go, I've blotted some of that blob now. In real life, obviously these would be woodcuts, but yeah, Childermas does them by hand. That's why I'm doing them by hand and not as a print of some kind. So yeah, I am aware that that this wouldn't be the medium that these cards would originally have been created with. But yeah, that's part of the exercise, right? To try and do something that is actually a woodcut. Hence the kind of the line work for the shadows and so on. That's it's a woodcut technique, or any kind of that kind of block printing technique to create shade. But yeah, and I'm trying to recreate that with a fountain pen, which is the tool that I assume that somebody like Johnathan in the 1800s, early 1800s, would have had to use to draw these. There's a blob there, but that's okay. You can still actually see the writing from the print behind as well, so I think that is actually coming out how I wanted. In terms of it looks like it's written on the back of something, and that the ink from that thing is showing through. So yeah, I will carry on. Okay, bye.